Are we going to fix that? I don't know.
The courtroom was quiet. Not the sort of quiet that is vacant, but the sort of quiet that has tension so heavy it hums in the air. You could hear the whir of the ceiling lights, the rustling of papers, the slight squeak of a chair as someone shifted their seat. And in the midst of it all, Kody Brown stood. She wasn't the same woman the world had been observing for years. This wasn't the smiling, placating sister wife who laughed on television and diffused Kody's temper. This was a reborn woman, forged in pain, betrayal, and ultimately truth. In her dark navy blazer and cream-colored blouse, pinned back hair, Kody appeared both fragile and indestructible. The bailiff uttered the words that would ring in her head for many years to come. "Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" Kody's voice was soft, unwavering. "I do." It was not just an oath. It was a vow, to herself, to her kids, and to all the women who had been muzzled by abuse masquerading as love. She sat down, her attorney smiling at her softly. Kody sat stiff across the room, arms folded, jaw set. His former charming smile, the one that had won over TV audiences and his wives for so many years, was nowhere to be found. Not physically, just in presence. For the first time, he was not in charge. The judge, a man known for his calm composure, adjusted his glasses and glanced down at the documents before him. "Mrs. Brown," he began, "please start from the beginning. Tell the court in your own words what brought us here today." Kody breathed slowly. Her hands quivered a little, but she did not conceal it. All her nerves cried out to flee, to go back. But she had vowed to herself, this time she wouldn't stay silent. No longer. "Marriage I did to Kody," she started, her tone firm but quiet. "I had something greater than myself that I believed in. I believed in family and faith and loyalty. But at some point along the way, loyalty turned into obedience and faith turned into control." The courtroom heard. Even the court reporter hesitated for a split second, her fingers resting on the keys. Kody went on, every word more biting than the last. "It wasn't about love. It was about power. Kody convinced us that we were all equal. But the reality is equality never existed. He chose who received his time, his attention, his finances. And if you challenge that, you were deemed disloyal." Her attorney gave her a paper, a photocopy of a conversation string between Kody and the family accountant. Kody read it quickly and then fixed her gaze on Kody. "This," she said, holding the paper aloft, "is when I knew everything was different. Money that should be deposited into our communal family fund was being diverted, without our approval, to an account in Robin's name." A few gasps broke through the silence. The judge raised his hand for quiet. Kody's attorney objected, claiming the document was taken out of context, but the judge waved him down. "We'll get to that," he said firmly. "Mrs. Brown, continue." Kody's eyes watered, but she didn't crumble. "When I talked to him, he didn't deny it. He just explained to me that I didn't get how leadership worked. That as the family head, he made decisions we were not supposed to question." Her voice cracked. "That was the moment when I no longer saw him as my husband, and began seeing him for what he had turned into, someone who thought he was above being accountable." Across the aisle, Kody's face twitched. He whispered something to his lawyer, but Kody didn't look away. She was done looking away. Her lawyer nodded to her, signaling it was okay to pause, but Kody shook her head. "No, I'm not done." She looked at the judge. "I remained silent for years because I believed that silence was peace. But it wasn't. It was domination. He dictated what we said, how we felt, how we behaved in front of cameras. Every fight, every tear, stage directed. Every disagreement became his turn to be the hero." The judge jotted down notes. The crowd in the back of her moved uncomfortably. This wasn't a testimonial. It was a confession of a person who had lived a lie for far too long. Kody took another breath. "Your Honor, I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for truth. Because for years, Kody built an empire on the illusion of unity. But behind closed doors, he weaponized that unity against us. He used it to justify lies." Her words hung in the air. For the first time, Kody looked uneasy. Kody's lawyer approached. Mrs. Brown, you said money was being diverted without your permission. Can you explain to the court what the money was intended for? Christine nodded. Yes, they were for our Coyote Pass property. We were going to build houses there, together. A shared dream. But when I inquired about construction progress, I was informed that there wasn't sufficient money. Afterwards, I heard that funds were spent on purchasing Robin's residence, a house the rest of us were informed we couldn't afford. That statement struck the courtroom like a lightning bolt. Kody's attorney objected once more, but the judge overruled it. Christine's voice shook now, not in fear but in emotion. I gave everything to that family. My time, my money, my faith. And in return, I was told I wasn't doing enough. That I didn't believe enough. That my loyalty was weak. She glanced down for a second, the silence drawing out. Then she looked up, eyes focusing on the judge. But I know what weak looks like now. Weak looks like manipulation. Weak looks like greed, and it looks like someone who uses faith as cover to manipulate the people he says he loves. The courtroom burst into whispers. Even the judge's demeanor relaxed when he next spoke. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Please take a moment. Christine nodded and slowly sat down. As she did, she looked back over her shoulder one last time at Kody. His face was reddened, his jaw clenched, but beneath the anger was something else. Fear. Because for the first time, Christine wasn't merely some other wife sitting quietly by his side. She was the woman who'd at last found her voice, and it was loud enough to rattle the walls of the courtroom. The judge took a sip of water, then looked toward Kody's lawyer. The court will take a brief recess, he said. We'll resume in 15 minutes. As the gavel struck, Christine exhaled. It wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But for the first time she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Freedom. And when the courtroom doors opened again, everyone knew. The truth had only just begun to speak. When the court opened again, the atmosphere was thick. The reporters murmured in the gallery. Christine sat at the plaintiff's table, hands together, eyes steady. She had made her statement. Now it was his turn. The bailiff's voice rang out in the room. Call Kody Brown to the stand. Every eye was on him. Kody stood up, rigid and purposeful. His jaw was clenched, his face composed into a mask of something between confidence and command. But there was a catch in the way he adjusted his tie, a flicker in his eyes that betrayed tension. He went to the witness stand, his boots thudding on the wooden floor in a rhythm that mirrored the thudding within his chest. The clerk greeted him with the same ritualistic words that an hour before had sworn Christine into truth. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Kody nodded curtly. I do. But the tone in which he spoke was weighted with defiance rather than humility. He wasn't vowing to tell the truth. He was vowing to defend himself. He sat down. Christine didn't stir, didn't blink. For a fleeting moment, Kody glanced in her direction, and what he saw there made him uncomfortable. Not anger, not sadness, just stillness. His lawyer, Mr. Silas Croft, came forward with a reassuring smile. Mr. Brown, let us begin simply. Tell me, in your own words, what was your position within your family? Kody rested his elbows on his knees, his hands crossed tightly in front of him. I was the leader, he explained. I was the one responsible for everyone. Financially, emotionally, spiritually. I created that family. Without me, there would have been no sister wives. There would have been no home or faith or structure. There was a bite to his tone, the same tone one had heard on the show when he needed to make an example of someone and stamp out dissent. Croft nodded. And did you ever misuse that power? Kody's lips twisted into something akin to a smirk. Never. Everything I did because of love. Christine and the others, they didn't get it. They wanted equality, but equality isn't found in a plural marriage. Leadership is. That was my job. The defense's first error was allowing him to continue speaking. Because the more Kody talked, the less the courtroom was seeing a misunderstood man, and the more they were seeing the very arrogance Christine described. The judge scribbled on his notepad. Christine's attorney, Anna Chararma, folded her arms and waited, almost smiling. Croft went on, let's talk about money. There's been mention of accounts, transfers, and business entities. Can you explain your understanding of the family financial system? Kody nodded, squaring his shoulders as if about to give a sermon. We had one large family business, Family Traditions LLC, where all of our income was pooled. TLC checks, royalties, appearance fees, book sales, everything. We also had small accounts, one per wife, for their personal spending money. I managed control to ensure that money was shared equally. Fairly, Kararma grumbled under her breath, just loud enough to be heard by the microphone. Kody glared at her. Yes, he said again. Fairly. Croft smiled slightly. And these other accounts, like K&R Holdings? Kody paused. It wasn't much of one, but it wasn't missed either. That was an investment vehicle, he explained. For property development. It was not a secret. Everyone knew it existed. Christine's attorney stood up at last. Your Honor, may I? The judge nodded. Proceed. Chararma walked to the stand, slow and measured, her heels clicking like a metronome of precision. Mr. Brown, she started gently, you indicated K&R Holdings wasn't clandestine. But when questioned previously under discovery, you couldn't provide the registration papers for that LLC. Why was that? Kody blinked. I didn't know where they were then. Interesting, she replied, turning a page in her binder. Because on public record, the LLC was registered in your name and Robin's, with no indication of the other wives. Is that true? Kody's jaw flexed. Yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was. Answer the question, Mr. Brown. Yes or no? Yes. Thank you. And you said earlier that this company was utilized in property development. So tell the court, how much of the funds that flowed through Family Traditions LLC were distributed to K&R Holdings? Kody fidgeted uncomfortably in his seat. I don't know the exact figure. Christine's attorney arched an eyebrow. Would you be surprised to hear it was more than $300,000 in less than 2 years? Kody's face grew redder. That's an exaggeration. It's not, she cut in, holding up a pile of bank statements. These are from your joint family account. Dated, confirmed, and signed. Each transaction noted with your approval, the gallery murmured. Kody sat forward, his voice growing louder. You don't understand how plural families work. It's complicated. The wives had access. They could have asked. Christine broke her silence from her chair. We did ask. The courtroom went still. She spoke softly, but her words were as sharp as a knife. Kody glared at her, the old anger burning in his eyes. You did not ask to know, Christine. You asked to blame? But Christine didn't blink. She just looked back at him, steady, calm, unflinching. The judge cleared his throat. Mr. Brown, please calm yourself. Kody caught his breath, attempting to pull himself back in, but it was too late. Kararma smiled faintly and addressed the judge. Your Honor, the plaintiffs would like to enter this as Exhibit 14, evidence of financial diversion and concealment. The judge nodded. Accepted. Kody's attorney attempted to steer the conversation back on track. Mr. Brown, how about intent? Did you intend to mislead anyone? Kody shook his head wildly. No! I was trying to take care of my family. I was handling what had to be handled because no one else could do it. Do you have any idea what it's like to try to manage 4 families? Do you? He glared around the courtroom, hoping for sympathy. None was forthcoming. Christine's attorney moved closer. And so, Mr. Brown, when you claim you were guarding your family, did that mean telling Christine that there was no money for her house when you bought Robin's? There was deafening silence. Kody's mouth dropped open, but nothing escaped. Kararma went on, her voice cutting like glass. Or were you defending your image? Your favorite wife? Your reputation on TV? Kody pounded his fist on the stand. That's enough, he growled. The judge struck his gavel once. Mr. Brown, you will keep order in this court. Kody sat back, his breathing ragged. Christine didn't glance at him again. She didn't need to. Because everyone in the room had just witnessed the truth, not on paper and in evidence, but in the blast that exposed who Kody Brown was. When the judge ordered recess, Kody's attorney leaned in close and spoke in a hushed voice. But Kody didn't hear. His gaze was fixed on Christine, and for the first time she wasn't glancing away. Power had changed hands, and this was only the start. The next day, the courtroom was fuller than previously. Reporters, enthusiasts, and legal onlookers packed all seats, whispering like the wind through desiccated grass. Everyone was aware of what lay ahead. The prosecution had tipped its hand earlier before recess, and rumors had spread like wildfire during the night. Christine remained quiet in her attorney's side, a cooled cup of coffee sitting in front of her. Janelle stood behind her, silent and still, a silent stronghold of encouragement. Across the room, Kody sat rigid, his jaw clenched, his bloodshot eyes wide with strain. He hadn't slept. You could tell by the manner in which he massaged his temples, the way his attorney spoke to him in hushed tones every few seconds, attempting to harden him for what was to come. The judge entered and everyone rose. When he told them to start, Christine's lawyer, Anna Chararma, strode to the middle of the courtroom like a gathering storm. "Your Honor," she started, "the plaintiffs would now like to introduce into evidence Exhibits 2127, digital video transcripts from the TLC production records of Sister Wives. Each of them has comments made by defendant Kody Brown about financial control, emotional treatment of his wives, and his own opinions on family governance." Kody's lawyer jumped up at once. "Objection! These are removed from entertainment context. They were recorded for a reality TV show, not under oath." Chararma didn't even glance at him. "And yet, Mr. Croft, they are statements made by your client himself, public admissions, made consistently for 10 years. The court has a right to hear them." Speaker paused, then very slowly nodded. "Objection overruled. Continue." The moment the gavel struck, Kody's face drained of color. Chararma turned to the technician waiting near the monitor. "Let's start with Season 14, Episode 7, Money, Trust, and Control." The lights dimmed slightly as the footage began to play. There was Kody, years younger but just as fiery, sitting on a leather couch. The words came out of his mouth like a confession wrapped in arrogance. "At the end of the day, I'm the one who knows how the money moves. If the wives want access, they can come to me. It's not about control, it's about responsibility." The room fell silent. The quote lingered in the air. Chararma looked at Kody. "Your words, Mr. Brown?" He swallowed. It was taken out of context. "The producers," she cut him off. "Let's continue." The screen switched again. Another clip here from a Sister Wives Tell-All special. Kody was in the middle of an interview, waving his hands about in emphasis. "I don't trust everybody with money decisions. Some of them are emotional spenders. You can't create stability when everybody's trying to play banker." A low rumble moved through the gallery. Christine didn't budge. Her lawyer only faintly smiled. "Mr. Brown," Chararma replied. "By some of them, you mean your wives, don't you?" Kody paused. "Yes, but that was regarding—" "So, you admit that you publicly represented your wives as financially irresponsible and privately transferred more than $300,000 into an account they were unaware of." Kody's fist closed over the railing of the stand. "You're distorting what I said." "No," she replied calmly. "We're just hearing them." The next clip rolled. It was from the infamous COVID season, the year everything began to unravel. Kody's voice filled the room again. "If they can't follow my rules, they can't be part of this family. I'm not bending to anyone's emotions anymore. This is about loyalty. If you're not loyal to me, you're disloyal to the family." Janelle looked down, blinking back tears. Christine stared ahead, expression unreadable. The judge observed intently, his pen hovering over his notepad. Chararma moved forward. "So when your wives disagreed, when they questioned their money, their children, or their emotional states, you said they were disloyal?" Kody edged forward. "I didn't mean that. They were breaking up unity. I was attempting to maintain the family unit." She nodded, then hit play again. The last clip was the one that everyone was waiting for. It wasn't explosive or loud. It was just quiet. Christine sat on a couch, crying. "I don't feel safe anymore to speak up," she told the camera. "Every time I do try to speak up, Kody makes me feel like I'm going crazy. Like I'm the issue. So I remain silent. And it's not peace. It's fear." And then Kody's voice, which was taped in a confession booth in the same episode, came immediately afterward. "Christine's playing the victim again. She doesn't understand leadership. Sometimes people mistake firmness for cruelty. But I'm not cruel. I'm in control, the words repeated. In control? Shararma allowed the quiet to hang before she turned back to him. Mr. Brown, would you still say you are in control today? Kody didn't respond. His face paled, the bravado giving way to something empty. The judge pushed his glasses back on his nose. Mr. Brown, answer me. Kody's voice was softer than before. I was trying to cope. Shararma nodded, walking slowly. Cope or manipulate? Kody exploded. I was trying to hold my family together. Everything I did was for them, to keep them from harming themselves. She halted walking. And yet, here we are. The shadow of the gavel appeared to spread across the floor of the courtroom as the air grew heavy. Shararma turned to the judge. Your Honor, we have no additional questions at this time, but I do wish to bring something to the record. The defendant's words, spanning many years, speak a pattern. Not a pattern of leadership, but one of control. Not one of faith, but one of fear. And those words have now spoken for themselves. The judge nodded gravely. The courtroom went quiet, a hush of whispers. Kody leaned back in his seat. He seemed smaller now, not the patriarchal figure, not the man who had once ruled 4 families and a television audience. Just a man backed into a corner by his own language. Christine took a long breath, her hands shaking a little as she folded them in her lap. When she stood up at recess, she did not glance back at him. But as she rose, she heard him curse under his breath, not to his attorney, not to the judge, but to himself. She wanted to destroy me. And Christine, who did not say a word, thought the same thing every single person in that courtroom already suspected. He destroyed himself. The second half of the trial would speak beyond words, in terms of evidence, intent, and outcome. But after this, the scales had irreparably tipped. For the first time in decades, Kody Brown wasn't doing the talking. He was having someone do it for him. The courtroom fell quiet as the next name was read. All the heads swiveled as the bailiff's voice rang out in the room. Call to the stand, Mindy Jessup. Christine's gaze flashed for a moment. Janelle sat straight up. Kody stiffened in an instant, his hands clamped around the table until his knuckles whitened. Robin's mouth opened a little in shock. The name struck like a blast of cold wind. Mindy wasn't any ordinary person. She was Robin's niece, the nanny, the one who had spent nearly 3 years living within their Flagstaff home, the one who witnessed everything. When she entered, the heel of her shoes on the courtroom floor sounded forever. She did not appear nervous to testify. She appeared prepared. Her shoulders were straight, her chin was up, her hair was pulled back, tidy. She had no makeup, no jewelry, nothing that might take attention away from what she said. She sat down, put her hand on the Bible, and took the oath. When she glanced up, her eyes locked onto Kody, and for a second, neither one of them budged. Then she turned away to the judge. Christine's lawyer, Anna Shararma, stepped forward with serene confidence. Miss Jessup, she started gently, thank you for coming today. Please give your complete name so it can be recorded. Mindy Alice Jessup, she replied levelly. Miss Jessup, can you inform the court your connection to the defendants? I'm Robin's niece, she explained. And for almost 3 years, I was the nanny for her and Kody's kids. The room seemed to buckle. Cameras snapped softly from the press section. Kody hunched forward slightly toward his lawyer, furious whispering. But it was irrelevant. Everyone could see the tension in his body. Anna went on. Miss Jessup, while you worked, were you also privy to conversations about money, family relationships, and domestic decisions? Yes, she replied. I managed scheduling, budgeting for some of the household expenses, and sometimes assisted in coordinating between Kody's communication and the other family members. So you saw him a lot? Yes, Mindy replied, her voice firm. Daily, Anna nodded. Miss Jessup, would you tell the court about the sort of mood that prevailed in the Flagstaff house over the period you were employed there? Mindy breathed slowly. It was strained. Not at first, but once Christine left, it changed. Kody was upset all the time. There were lengthy discussions about loyalty, about how the other wives had betrayed him. He'd pace in the house screaming sometimes, and Robin would cry a lot. Did he ever speak about Christine or Janelle specifically? Anna asked. Mindy's gaze fell for a second. Yes, often. He said they'd made the family turn against him. That they were working to ruin everything he'd worked for. Kody banged his fist on the table. That's a lie! The judge slammed the gavel. Mr. Brown, you will hold your peace or be taken out of the courtroom. The tirade only made the moment feel more weighty. Christine didn't even blink. Anna advanced again, unruffled as ever. Miss Jessup, continue. He accused Christine of being manipulative, Mindy explained. Told her she was poisoning the family image. But behind closed doors, alone in the house, he'd sit at the kitchen table and gaze at the old photographs. He'd mutter things like, "She'll regret it. She'll see what happens when people cross me." There were gasps from the audience. And Robin? Anna asked. Mindy nodded slowly. She stood up for him all the time. Said he was under stress. But then she told me once that she was afraid he was going to break. That the rage wasn't over Christine leaving, but over losing control. Anna stopped. Control? Mindy swallowed. Yes, he said it himself more than once. That control was the only way to prevent the family from disintegrating. That if he wasn't at the top, they'd devour each other. The words lingered in the air. Anna addressed the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from the defendant himself, in his own words. Now you hear it from the one person who witnessed the mask fall off, someone who had lived behind the walls where the truth was hidden. She turned back to Mindy. Miss Jessup, did you ever see any conversation or activity related to money transfers or hidden accounts? The courtroom fell silent. Yes, she said at last. I did. The judge leaned in a little farther. Go on. I was being asked to deliver sealed envelopes to the bank a number of times. They were initialed, KN and R. I didn't get it at first, but one day I saw the name on a paper, KN and R Holdings. Kody Nathan and Robin Brown. Anna moved in a little closer. Did you ever get to see what was in them? No, ma'am, replied Mindy, but I heard them discussing it once. Robin said, They'll never know as long as we keep it in the LLC. And Kody said to her, It's not hiding. It's protecting what's ours. Robin cried out and burst into tears. That's not true, she exclaimed. She's twisting everything. The gavel came down again. Mrs. Brown, calm yourself. Anna allowed the silence to stretch before she posed the final question. Miss Jessup, why did you choose to come forward today? Mindy glanced at Christine, then Janelle. Her expression softened. Because I saw the harm. I saw how they were treated, how truth was always the enemy. I thought being silent would keep the peace, but all it did was make me complicit. I'm here because they deserve to be heard. A gentle murmur filled the room. Shock, empathy, respect. Even some of the journalists dropped their cameras. Kody appeared furious. His jaw was clenched, his eyes narrowed, but for once during this whole trial, he didn't open his mouth. He simply sat, staring like a man seeing the walls close in. Anna nodded to Mindy. Thank you. No further questions. When the defense lawyer rose to cross-examine, he attempted to pervert the story, suggesting Mindy was resentful for having left her job, that she had ulterior motives. But each try was unsuccessful. Her even, measured voice never trembled. Her responses were crisp, factual, and very human. As she left the stand, the courtroom after her with their gaze. Even Christine nodded to her subtly, a silent appreciation. At the close of the day, Kody's attorney whispered frenziedly, papers crumpling like a tempest. Robin's crying refused to abate. Christine and Janelle departed silently, shoulders back. But as she left, Christine looked back once more. Not at Kody, but at the vacant witness stand where truth had finally been heard. She knew the battle was far from over. The last word, the one that might make all the difference, had yet to be spoken. And it wasn't from a wife or an attorney or even a nanny. It was from Kody himself. Because the court had just commanded him to testify. The courtroom was different the next morning. The air was heavier, more dense, like the quiet before a storm. Even the reporters accustomed to the spectacle were subdued. Every seat was filled, every camera lens trained on one man, Kody Brown. He entered the courtroom in a dark suit that wasn't quite long enough for his shoulders. His blonde curls mussed. He wasn't the confident patriarch from Sister Wives. He was exhausted, trapped, a man without his persona and ready to get hit with something much stronger than any reality television spotlight. Reality. Christine and Janelle sat together, quiet. They had no need to talk. Their very presence bore the weight of years. Years of silence, of dismissal, of being told their hurt didn't count. Today they didn't have to prove anything. Today words from Kody would do the heavy lifting. When the bailiff called his name, he stood. His attorney offered him a comforting pat on the back, but Kody did not reciprocate. He strode to the stand, jaw clenched, eyes flicking towards Christine for an instant, and then away. He placed his hand on the Bible. He took the oath. He sat down, and the room held its breath. Anna Chararma, Christine and Janelle's lawyer, rose with a coolness that was nearly clinical. She didn't have to yell. Her command was her strength. "Mr. Brown," she started, "you presided over what you referred to as a plural family for more than a decade." "True?" Kody nodded rigidly. "Yes." "And you conducted both business operations and family finances by way of a number of different companies, correct?" He hesitated. "I managed certain things, yes." "Which companies?" "Family Traditions, LLC," he replied cautiously. "And K&R Holdings." The instant he uttered it, a buzz went through the crowd. He'd just validated it. The mysterious company at the heart of the case. Anna's voice remained steady. "Mr. Brown, could you inform the court what K&R Holdings is an abbreviation for?" Kody shifted. "It's an investment vehicle." She smiled faintly. "For whom?" "For the family," he replied hastily. "It was designed to shelter assets, make tax—" Anna interrupted him, her tone crisp. "Mr. Brown, isn't it correct that the only named owners of K&R Holdings are you and Robin Brown?" Silence. He gritted his jaw. "Technically, yes, but that's— So not Christine. Not Janelle. Not Mary. No," he said at last. "Not them." The jury looked at each other. The room was charged, quiet but electric. Anna moved forward hesitantly. "You've insisted, Mr. Brown, that your family was run on unity, on mutual values, on equality. Do you think it's equal to keep money hidden from your wives and tell them that the money wasn't available for their houses?" Kody's face grew black. "I didn't keep anything back." "You didn't?" Anna arched an eyebrow. "Then why did Christine and Janelle never get complete access to the books?" "They didn't have to," snapped Kody. "I was doing it. That was my job." His voice cracked like thunder, shaking the room. The judge slammed down his gavel. "Mr. Brown, please control your tone." Anna didn't move. "Your job," she said softly. "Mr. Brown, can you tell us whether your job was as a leader or a controller?" He scowled at her. "I'm the husband. The father. I led my family. By threatening to cut them off financially when they didn't agree with you?" He bristled. "That's not—" Anna picked up a piece of paper. "Let me jog your memory." She opened an email, displayed on the courtroom screen. It was 2 years ago. From Kody Brown to Family Traditions LLC Board, comprised of the wives and himself. Until Christine and Janelle are able to show loyalty and alignment with the central family unit, I am not going to sanction further payouts from the central account. A collective intake of breath filled the air. Anna raised her eyes. "Did you write that, Mr. Brown?" His throat bobbed. "It's taken out of context. It's your words," Anna said quietly. "Loyalty and conformity. You equated family loyalty with money. You coached women, your wives, that if they questioned you, they would lose their financial security." Christine's eyes shone, but she didn't glance away. Kody's hands shook slightly. "They were sabotaging me," he said. "They were turning the children against me. They disrespected our faith." Anna inched a slow step closer. "So your solution was to control the finances?" He did not respond. The quiet was louder than any cry. And then Anna did something that surprised her. She put the papers aside and said quietly, "Mr. Brown, I want to show you something." She gestured to the clerk, who handed her a tablet. On the screen, a brief video clip started playing. It was from Sister Wives, one of the early seasons. The footage was of Kody seated in a confessional interview, smiling at the camera. He was explaining, "In this family, we make decisions together. There's no hierarchy, no control, just love and trust." As the clip finished, Anna shut down the tablet and looked at him. "Do you recognize that declaration?" "Yes," he replied, voice low. "Do you still think so?" He gazed at her, then the jury, then at Christine, and for the split second, his conviction wavered. His lips parted, but there was no response. Then he cast his eyes downwards. "I tried," he said, "but they disappeared." "They didn't want reconciliation." Anna shook her head slowly. "Or perhaps they desired equality." He glared up once more, combative. "They were ungrateful." "I gave them everything!" Her voice remained firm. "And yet somehow, Mr. Brown, they departed with nothing." He pounded his fist on the armrest. "Because they quit. You can't form a family if everybody just walks away when things are tough." Christine's lawyer turned to the judge. No further questions. But as she headed back to her seat, Kody couldn't help himself. He shifted towards Christine, his tone low but poisonous. "You think you won, don't you? You think you're free. But you'll see what happens when the cameras stop rolling." The courtroom became quiet. Even the judge halted, his eyes narrowing. Christine didn't even answer. She just stared at him, not with fear, not with contempt, but with something that hurt more. Pity. The judge cleared his throat. "We'll take a 15-minute recess." As the jury filed out, Christine stood, gathering her papers. Janelle placed a hand on her shoulder. Across the room, Kody's lawyer tried to calm him, but Kody sat frozen, red-faced, jaw twitching. The gavel's echo still hung in the air like a warning. For years, Kody had controlled the narrative. The show, the image, the wives. But here, on the stand, his own testimony had done what none of them ever could. It tore him apart. But still, and this was not finished. Because as court resumed, a new report was being drawn up. One that no one anticipated. One that might pull the case out of family court and into federal jurisdiction. By the time the courtroom met again that day, something had shifted. The tension no longer rippled with the tempest of accusation. It vibrated with the subtle strength of truth coming to rest. Christine remained motionless, hands clasped, eyes gentle but intent. Janelle next to her appeared steady, her face serene, rooted. They were not here seeking revenge. They were here seeking closure. But Kody, he was coming apart. He slumped hunched over the defense table, his suit rumpled, eyes bloodshot, jaw spasming. His attorney leaned over and whispered something to him, but he didn't react. He just glared across the aisle, at Christine, as if he stared hard enough he could roll back time. The same gaze that once stifled rooms now rang empty. The authority was lost. The judge returned, papers in front of him, his face inscrutable. The gallery stilled, each rustle and whisper evaporating. "Mr. Brown," the judge began, "this court has considered the evidence submitted. Financial documents, testimony, and transcripts of communication." He paused. "There is a trend here. A trend of manipulation, control, and intentional financial dishonesty." Kody's lips parted. His hands clenched the table in white-knuckled fists. The judge went on, voice firm but unyielding. "You constructed an empire on the pretense of unity, but the reality is that it was upheld by fear and by secrecy. And that is over today." Robin, seated behind Kody, began to silently weep. Her mascara ran down her face as she gripped a tissue, swaying back and forth. But Kody didn't glance at her. His eyes remained fixed on the judge, almost begging. The judge glared at Christine and Janelle. "To the plaintiffs, your bravery in presenting this has not been overlooked. Justice will not take away the hurt, but it will start the healing." And then he pronounced the sentence. "All properties and assets pertaining to KN&R Holdings are to be sold. The proceeds shared equally between all valid spouses at the time of the previous filing year. Also, complete financial openness is to be provided immediately." He looked at Kody once more. "This court firmly recommends compliance before further legal action is necessary." A collective hum ran through the courtroom. Journalists taking notes, cameras snapping, hushed gasps in the air. Christine did not smile. She simply let out her breath, slow and soft, as if a weight at last had been removed from her chest. Kody appeared, lost. The man who once ruled over 4 households, a television crew, and an empire of wives, now resembled a man stripped naked. Merely a man confronting the truth he'd spent years trying to escape. The judge stood. Court is adjourned. The gavel crashed. The bang rang out like thunder. And that's when Kody cracked. He pounded his hand on the table, voice raw and trembling. "You don't understand!" he bellowed. "They betrayed me. I gave everything. Everything!" The bailiff edged forward cautiously. Christine shifted slowly to face him. Her voice was even, soft but biting through tension like a blade. "No, Kody," she said. "You didn't give everything. You took everything. And called it love." He stood immobile. Each of the reporters in the room ceased their typing. Even the judge stopped by the doorway. For once, Christine stood up hastily, stuffed the now infamous manila envelope into her bag, and headed toward the door. Janelle accompanied her, her hand sweeping over Christine's shoulder for a moment as they exited together into the sunlight spilling through the courthouse doors. Behind them, Kody leaned back into his chair. Robin tried to whisper something through tears, but he did not respond. His gaze was on the manila envelope moving into the sunlight. Outside, the flashbulbs exploded. Cameras swirled around Christine and Janelle, names being called from all sides. But they didn't halt. They just kept going, silent, firm, steady. Reporters yelled, "Christine, what was in the envelope? Is this the end for Kody Brown? Will there be criminal charges?" Christine paused just long enough to glance into the cameras, her own face serene, inscrutable. Then quietly, "Truth always finds a way out." And she departed. But when the courthouse began to clear out, one clerk remained behind. She walked over to the judge's bench, and in hand was a folder, not the one everyone noticed, but another one. A sealed document with the words, "For federal review, pending." The judge accepted it, read the title, and his forehead creased. He glanced at the vacant defense table where Kody had sat hours before, then at the plaintiff's bench where Christine's documents had lain. On the cover of the file, U.S. Financial Investigation, Sister Wives Productions, K&R Holdings, and associated entities. The judge took a breath. The storm was not finished. It had merely switched courts. Outside, Christine glanced back for a final look at the courthouse, her face gentle but aware. Freedom wasn't so much getting away from Kody, it was stepping into whatever came next. Because the truth hadn't finished speaking yet. Fade out.